led by Trustee Anderson. If everybody please rise.
And we pray, Father, that as we discuss the ongoing needs and activities that are happening here in Minidoka School District, that we will do so with a mind that's open and hearts that are able to lead us in the right directions to make sure that our children are receiving the best educations they can and are prepared to go to the next stage of their lives. Father in heaven, we are grateful for this opportunity, and we give thee this thanks in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I allegiance to I'll make that motion as read.
Okay, motion by Trustee Anderson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Claridge. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Did anybody have any questions or comments about the consent agenda?
No, sir.
Okay, hearing none, the consent agenda is adopted by unanimous consent. And that takes us to our student representative reports. Is there anybody here from Mount Harrison?
No.
Oh, okay.
Italy, it's
Your
on
turn.
you.
Okay, for Minco, Italy Jensen.
Chairman, there were two students, and when I left the executive session, they left and we're going to come back.
So like what they need to have is for them to be successful through that. Finally, our spring sports have started. Softball, baseball, I think those are going really
None of them.
well.
Oh, this one.
We're gonna speak loud.
This one.
Sorry, guys. It has finished their direct writing assessment. I've heard that that's going really good. Us juniors have taken the SATs, and they were not as hard as I thought they would be, so I was stressing for nothing. We finally have 3 days till spring break. Thank goodness, I think we all need a break. So far, student council and student body, we're planning for spring fling and prom, and that will be when we come back. So that is all we have for Minidoka.
Any questions? Or?
Nothing. That's
Think so.
all. Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want your microphone back?
Oh.
And Rick Stinson, and we have multiple other coaches over here. Obviously, I know you guys got to hear things, but I just want to make this clear that Minidoka is the 3-time back-to-back. Thanks, Dan, for that. Correct me if I'm wrong. When's the last time that happened in state Idaho? Well, Meridian's on their 4th. Okay, but let's just say we're chasing something, right? Yeah. But we don't want to. We're going to enjoy this one. But I think since I've gotten here, the one thing somebody said to me, wrestling is going to be one of your biggest things, right? And everybody thought I was just a basketball guy, right? I'm like, I get here and I didn't know what that meant. The wrestling season started, and I was like, okay, I get it now. And I tell these guys all the time, like, what's been created here is what they call legacy. And Minico is known across the country for wrestling, right? They get invited to national tournaments. Like that's unheard of. We're the only team in Idaho that gets to go. It's just like you brought up Meridian. They want Meridian. You know, they're obviously going to be a 6A next year. We're going to be a 5A, but I think they've created something where we have so many kids that believe in it that we have roughly 100 plus kids show up every year for wrestling and multiple state champions. And right now we're in the process of turning a wall into the state champion wall because me as athletic director, frankly, I don't know all the state champions that have come out of Minico. It's been going on forever. And I believe that's something you should celebrate at all times because it gives these kids a chance to walk down a hall, look at these pictures every day, and strive to want to be on that wall someday. And I know me and Rick and Clay have discussed this, and we're going to add other things, but, you know, it all starts with wrestling because I believe it was this year we had our first 3-time individual state champ in the history of Minico.
Yep.
We had 3 in a row, and probably could have been 4 if maybe he would have got hurt his freshman year, but that's okay. 3's pretty dang good, and we're proud of them. And we got another one on his way next year to possibly get it. So I want to go ahead and pull up these two and let them talk to you. They brought the trophy and the banner. And I want you guys to explain to them how Mrs. Kidd explained to me, because I was up at state cheer at the time, how we solidified the third time with what happened in the last match. So obviously it's a great story, by the way. It's a Hoosiers type story, believe it or not. So let's get Rick and Clay up here and they can talk about this team a little bit.
Plays good.
Clay's got it.
Come on, Rick. Can I stand over here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, to understand our season, anything that could go wrong did go wrong. From injuries to skin infections to sicknesses to blown tires on the buses to a lot of other things that happened to us. There was a weekend that we had 75% of our team out, which the team of, at that point, I think we had about 70 kids. So everything that could go wrong did go wrong. At the state tournament, we were missing 4 of our top guys that were number 1 in the weight class and even number 1 in the state. But to illustrate the resilience and the grit and the moxie and the character of our kids, they still showed up at state undermanned and gone through many trials throughout the year. And so the story I think Brady's talking about is as we go into the finals, we're ahead a few points, but we know Bishop Kelly's got some nationally ranked kids. And so they passed us in points, but it came down to the last 3 matches, which we had a kid in the finals in those 3 weights. And each one of those kids won, and the final match was Garrett Bell, and he had to pin for us to be state champions, and he was able to pin his opponent. So through all those issues, situations, scenarios, trials that we went through, these kids showed their true character in the end, and they were able to be something that no Minico team has ever been in the history of Minico wrestling, and it's been a long and illustrious history, but they are now 3-time state champions.
That is something to be proud of. And that takes a lot of hard work. If it's possible, I'd like to have the coaches and the players want to single file
Hey,
around.
before they file through it, and I know that we're right as a team, and that is incredible. But Garrett, I want to know, did you know you needed a pin going into that final?
Yeah.
So you got it. I mean, the clock was winding down at the end of that first. I mean, what was that feeling when you got that?
Well,
And for the team, what did that feel like?
Well, me and Rick kind of had a little conversation before the round started, and I pretty much pinned all my other kids in the first round. So Rick and I made a deal that we're gonna try to make it happen in the first round on that one too. So they were at the last couple of seconds. I just tried to hurry and make it happen. So
yeah. And then when it happened, what did that feel like for all of you guys? Garrett, all of you guys. What did it feel
felt pretty amazing. Felt like he came and did what we were supposed to.
Yeah, like about every other time he clutched in a tournament for us.
Well, I know as a fan standing there, sitting up there and
watching that, our whole crowd of Minico Spartan rooters were off the bench. They
Well,
were.
it wasn't just our crowd either.
No.
It was the stadium.
It was.
Right?
It was.
Everybody knew.
But I was there, and it's awesome. If anybody can ever see that and experience that, the Minico Spartans put on a big deal.
And we had more people at the state tournament this year for that final round than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We've never had that kind of support, so it was awesome. It's good.
So the last thing I might say is we have our banquet tomorrow night for the boys and Wednesday night for the girls, and that kind of wraps up the 2024 season. And then we begin our quest for 4. And we've had kids that are already in the room. We have kids traveling back to Virginia here in a couple of weeks. We have kids traveling all over. We got camp set up. So if you didn't make it this year, we'll see you there next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clay, one other thing that Clay didn't point out, Brady talks about asking how many other schools have done the three-peat. And for Meridian right now, they got kids from all over the state that are wrestling for them, all over the country, right? So they do a lot of recruiting to get that team that they have right now. And we still beat them in the one tournament we faced them this year. But at Minico, all of these kids are born and raised Minico kids. They came through our program. None of us recruited. They have been here since they were 5 years old. For most of them, some of them moved in, but for most of them, they are Minico kids. And there's some pride that we take as coaches with that, because that's just goes to show you the culture and the program that we have all the way through that brings these kids in. And we do it like Bishop Kelly. Those kids, all they do is wrestle, and they do it year round. Our kids are multiple sport athletes. For most of them, they're just there for the 4 months. So it really is incredible what they are accomplishing in those 4 months. So.
Just a tip.
Yep.
So hats off to our Spartans.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay, wrestlers, you just want to come right around here, shake that hand, and go around that way. Let's start right on here. Hey, you go out here. Yes, sir. They can see it.
Oh man, my hand's sweaty. He's all church. He's tiny.
You know what? I gotta go hand out potatoes out of my car.
Yeah, that might be a tough expectation to follow, but we're 3, 4, 5-year champs too at Asequa. So Asequa's good news tonight. I focused on one of the most positive changes that we made to our building this last year, and that was
Mrs.
Mrs. Kid has it.
They're not letting go yet.
I wouldn't either if I was him.
Anyways, so one of the biggest changes we made at the sequel this last year was we took a teacher allocation and removed a teacher out of the classroom and put in a counselor. And that was heavily weighted by a colleague, Angela, that said it was very much needed in the school. And I thought if she feels that way, it's got to be the same at a sequel with all of the things that we deal with. So we hired Mrs. Rigby, who was really qualified to take on the position. And she does a handful of things, But three of the things that I'm going to focus on tonight is she does whole class monthly lessons on different topics. And those topics are based primarily on the discipline and the interactions that we have with those kids in that grade level to really focus on what should the general topic be. So some of those, like as you can see, are friendship, listening, setting goals, using kind words, etc. She also teaches weekly social groups on topics such as resiliency, social skills, and feelings. And then there is time in her day that she does work one-on-one with students as a needed basis. And she's continued to help support our One Book, One School program. So if you can remember a couple years ago, I did present on that. We've taken another little twist with that program, and we've really focused on different topics. And so each month, that book has helped guide some of those things. And so she's kind of taken that and ran with it and added some more things. And another fun thing that they've just started doing this spring is implementing a birthday lunch, which has been kind of fun for the kids. So giving kids an opportunity to get to know others that they might not see on a day-to-day basis, but they have commonalities. And so I think this one in particular was the January birthdays, and so they got a little sticker and they get to come and eat lunch with her and Mrs. Ray and just kind of get to know each other. So those are just a few things. This is inside the office of Mrs. Rigby. So as you can see, there's an opportunity for students to go to her if they're feeling the need to. And then, you know, different hellos and goodbyes and how's it going? Where am I at on that spectrum? I think she is here tonight. There she is. There's the queen herself. Any questions?
I was wondering, I saw the Let's Talk and they have the paper to put in there. Is that very popular? Is there a lot of students that want to sit down and discuss issues they're having, or just in general? Have you seen a lot of that? Or?
I feel like it's taken a little bit of time for maybe a new adult in the building to be a trusting face, right? So Mrs. Rigby has done a really good job in just being there, being out there, being with all of the kids so that the kids know who she is and that she's a trusted adult. Would you say that kids come and give you a paper?
Yeah, fourth grade wins.
There you go.
Fourth grade's a winner, but no, we have a lot of kids doing their self-referral as far as that go, and just kind of ebbs and flows.
I think it's awesome. And so you feel like, I mean, obviously, you feel like that allocation switch was very valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to put a plug in. Every elementary needs a counselor, just like our secondary schools. And with what we are dealing with now, it has helped bridge that gap. I go back and forth. I feel like I need a counseling degree. Sometimes I'm dealing with situations that I don't know how to respond to. And so I feel like now actually having a certified counselor in the building has helped me feel like there's somebody here that knows how to talk to you and can do that. So I highly recommend and keep my fingers crossed that we'll be able to keep her in our building next year. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
I guess I don't know what a One Book, One School is.
So our One Book, One School is we pick a book per month and every teacher gets a copy of the book and we focus on a topic. So one of the books was on accepting you as an individual. And so we do school activities. The librarian does some things during library time to bridge that. And so it's the same conversation. We can refer back to the book. The teachers can use the book during social skills times. And so it just helps to build some of those conversations and tell a story through pictures. Yeah. Yep. No problem. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any patron comments? None tonight. Okay. On to our discussion items. Item 8A, the proposal options for assisting all-day kindergarten. Did you want to talk about this, or?
No, the principals are going to do that.
Oh, okay.
I will just say that this was just recently presented to me.
Okay.
And, I hope you'll listen because it's a pretty good proposal, especially in light of what we're seeing in our schools.
Okay. All right. Well, else, anybody want to start? Mrs. Austin?
So I'm gonna. I am hoping that you had the opportunity to read the letter, and so I think it is pretty clear in the value of the fact that we do believe that we need all day kindergarten as well, but we actually need to have the same supports that we currently have. That's going to be very difficult with the allocations coming down, and so our classes are large. I don't know if you're aware, but according to Daryl, that we get one teacher allocation per 40 students in kindergarten. And so that's where the difficulty comes, because they do not allocate for us to be able to have all day or full day kindergarten. So in order for us to have that, we were making a proposal that said something to the effect that we need to have the teacher allocation, as well as we need to have a para, and I think it's 1 per 32, I really can't say. 36. 1 per 36 students, so that we can have about 2 paras to go for like 4 teachers. And we also need an extra behavior person that would focus primarily in like the K1, 2 area, but they would be teaching social skills specifically, similar to what like I think Mrs. Hepworth was talking about in the counseling area, but this would be for teaching them how to do self-regulation and things like that they don't come with those things. We also discussed that the non-monetary value in our teachers meeting together and scheduling out like maybe 6 weeks of instruction, like not necessarily academic, but definitely learning how to sit in their seat and how to manage themselves and how to behave in the classroom, as well as like how to hold a pencil and things like that. So those are all things that are skills that are needed to help our students so that they can be successful. But really we need people, because our state allocation is only 1 teacher per every 40 students, and that's not include paraprofessionals at all. What do you guys want to add?
I was going to say,
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is then we use our literacy funds. So our literacy plan that we submit to the state mostly is for all day kindergarten, and so it's important for us to look at those literacy scores. But I think we could all agree that if we stick a teacher in the classroom with 20 students all by themselves, that literacy doesn't become one of the priorities, right? It's almost a safety thing and really dealing with those behaviors. So I think it's important that if that's our focus and we want kids to be ready for school, that we really need that extra support in kindergarten to help with that.
And I would say some of those classrooms are 24, 25 kids with 1 adult. And my biggest concern is about safety and them learning and them having the ability to allow the other students to learn and provide a safe environment for them. That's where my heart is. And I worry right now.
I got a question, just out of curiosity. How many, like, I know it varies probably school to school, but how many do we typically have enrolled in kindergarten right now, like just in general?
I have 198.
In 4 classes of kindergarten.
We have about 80 for 4 classes.
I sit at about 45.
And it's my lowest in my entire life there. It's 96.
And they're all trying to keep that ratio roughly the same of the 24, 20-ish. That's where we're.
Really, 20 would be lovely.
Yeah.
20 would be. There's 16
That would be
extras.
great. That would be great, but
That's where
reality.
that behavior person would help us out, because we could
Yes.
work with them on the other stuff, and then the behavior would pull them out at different times and work those heavy duty skills with them while we're still working with the rest of the kids. So that behavior person is really important.
so are you saying a behavior person at each school?
An extra tech.
We have a behavior person, which is supposed to be K5, but we have enough behaviors in our school that they can't stretch that far. So we are asking for one that would target K2, but primarily kindergarten, especially the first 6 weeks, and help us with some of those as they get older, they get a little bit easier, but we still have some high needs kids in the 4th, 5th grade age that need one-on-one.
I have a question for Mrs. Bingham.
Yes.
I remember, I was going to say 5-6 months ago, you with TL, and you came and told us that you were wanting to hire another behavioral person, and that TL was going to be helping her train. Where is that person?
Right here, it's Mrs. Hanson. She's been doing an amazing job. We did that last
year ago.
A year ago, probably. And I want to share, Mrs. Hanson, what you've been doing.
Yeah. She helped us write the proposal.
I did write the proposal. And I think just going back to like, where are we spending our energy and time? And it's in kindergarten with behavior. I can't see you very
I know, sorry.
And so putting our resources where we really need them, because if we can, like we talked, taking those handful of kids out of the classroom to teach them the skills that they're missing allows for the other kids who are ready to be at school all day to learn, and teaching them the skills they need to be successful within school also. So our kindergarten teachers have done a really great job at learning what's called TPOT. It's an early childhood positive behavior support. They're positive behavior supports. It's not really a program or a curriculum. It's like a way of teaching. And they've all done a really great job of taking to the program and implementing in their classrooms. And even with that extra that we're doing, even with the paras in the classrooms, we just need that little extra piece. So we do have good systems in place. We have behavior teachers that work extremely hard in our elementary schools, and behavior techs that are working really, really hard in our schools, and we just need that little extra piece of teaching. We spend a lot of our time putting out fires as opposed to preventative teaching. So if we are able to target kindergarten, target the teaching that can happen within that setting, hopefully will alleviate as they get older.
So do you rotate around to the schools? Is that what you do?
I do. I spend a lot of time at all of the buildings, heavy in the elementary. Spend a lot of time in the classroom setting with classroom teachers helping with management, just classroom management, strategies for challenging behavior, helping brainstorm for specific students, things to do, help with implementing behavior plans. I teach all of the CPI in the district. So all of the like nonviolent crisis intervention, the restraint and seclusion, all of our tier 1, we're working really hard. This was going to be in my behavior bulletin for next month, but I'll tell you now. We've been accepted into what's called ITBS, so Idaho Tiered Behavior Supports. It's Idaho's version of positive behavior supports. They've taken it with SESTA and have built a system of support with our tier 1 setting, so all students, the supports that all students receive. So that's something that we'll be rolling out into this next school year. Yeah, we're working really hard on behavior. Really, really hard. A lot of credit due to a lot of our staff.
Well, my hat's off to kindergarten teachers especially.
Those kindergarten teachers are super afraid that the master money goes away, that they're all alone. So
I think
it matters how they feel.
I think that's the concern is we hired paras for each classroom with that ESSER money. With it being used and gone, those are the people that are going.
And I'll
potentially going.
I'm going to add that a lot of those paras are used for behavior.
Right.
They've been taken and they are teaching social groups, or they are a one-to-one for a student as opposed to helping with instruction.
But the value between having someone that's a behavior designated person and a para is overwhelmingly, it's huge, because like we have in the past had to use that para, and so none of the other kids get to have the benefit of having an extra support person when it comes to small groups and things. So we have that behavior person that was the one that pulled them out maybe during that learning time and had them do like a small group of 4 very difficult students to give that teacher an opportunity to use that para to do small groups, it's much more valuable. So, I mean, we haven't been able to use some of our paras for instruction like we need to because we've actually had to sacrifice them for behavior.
So you as principals have, this is a great letter that you gave to us. Have you come up with any, I mean, you know our situation. Have you come up with any ideas how we're going to fund this?
That's the problem. That's why I said we also looked at money things that we're going to do to make changes as well.
I mean, we have come up with sort of a plan where we do not assign the kindergartners to a specific classroom at the very beginning. We really would like to have it be very fluid so that we can move them around. We can segregate or divide, however you want, into different pods maybe, so that we can figure out how the kids are. What happens is we don't know the kids. When we have all the other grade levels, we can separate them and put some behaviors in each classroom. We can really give them the opportunity so the teachers can have a manageable amount of children that they can reach and deal with help. But right now, as it is, we just kind of have to do our best and we do a little screener and we kind of place them based on scores, but we don't have a huge idea about their behaviors unless we're getting them from our preschool, and we can do a really good job of separating them. But then all of a sudden you have this one class with 5 kids and I've got it, and that poor teacher, she's very, very, I mean, much struggling to get it under control because it's just overwhelming.
Right.
You can deal with 2 or 3.
The bottom line is, though, we know we don't get funded for it. You're asking for a full day of kindergarten, and we don't get the funding from the state. So it has to be taken from somewhere in our building. It's going to have to be sacrificed off the backs of 5th grade and 4th grade and things just to make the all-day kindergarten work. And that's just the bare minimum for one adult for 26 kids. That's not for the extra behavior supports and things that we need.
Correct.
I think that's where it goes back to that literacy plan. So that's a question, right? So I'm an early childhood major. I fully believe that we don't have a great early childhood system here in our community, especially as I have a little boy that's entering into that age group. But at the end of the day, do I think all-day kindergarten is what's best for kids? Yes. Is it what is best for kids to take other classified individuals within the building and dump them into kindergarten? No. Do I think that you then have to go back and say, well, do we go back to half-day kindergarten? Is that really what we want to do to this community? Is that what's best? No. And so I think then you have to really say, hey, if this is our priority, what are we going to do as a district to make sure that we can do this? I would fear the loss of staff and the amount of money spent in training individuals if we have all-day kindergarten with no support. I just don't think it's fair and it's right, and ultimately the kids are not safe. The behaviors are that extreme that the other children and the adult in the room are not safe.
And that the children in our, or I should say the children, the staff in our building have made it clear to me, the teachers, the kindergarten teachers want full day kindergarten. They do not want half day kindergarten, but they absolutely need to have the supports in place to make it successful.
And I think all of our, ASEQA teachers feel the exact same way.
They need support.
When we, because a lot of this happened before I came on, so I'm just wondering, when we brought on the paras, for instance, in this situation, and we knew we had ESSER funds, did we know, at the time when you guys were bringing them on, did you know they were going to be temporary?
Mm-hmm.
And that we would kind of
I
give all
think
day
at the
kindergarten.
time, there was legislation to fund full day kindergarten when we made the decision it was going through. So I think the hope was that the legislature would kick in and actually fund it for what it is, which I think they justify now at this point. That literacy money, we do pay for this year about 10-ish teachers from that, which then the schools are using how they choose. But it does give a bump of teachers to elementary without literacy money.
pretty quiet back there, Angela.
I'm with the rest of them.
We've talked a lot.
It's hard.
If you can
This year's
imagine.
been my easiest for kindergarten, but I also don't have 28 in my classroom like I've had the past couple of years. And so to us, it's been a little more of a relief. I have it in my first and second grades that I've been dealing with still from kindergarten because we couldn't get it under control in kindergarten.
Which goes back to, let's just put our resources, you know, the early childhood intervention of where we can really, you know, hit that hard and make a big difference, so we can help some of that in the
And I
later
think we've all
grades.
had the same issue with kindergarten the last few years. Blame it on COVID, whatever you want to say. It's a national thing. It's here. And like we need a K2 specialist for the behaviors because honestly, like Angela said, we're still changing. I changed diapers today because my person wasn't there. I still got 2 kids that have to have diapers changed in first grade, almost second grade. We have to have a behavior person because their behaviors are still like running amok. I mean, they're like, you got this one, I got this one. We're trying to keep them from running out of the building. It's a daily thing, and it's so kindergarten, but it goes over into K, first and second.
I think we have seen a lot of success with the current system, having the support and having the people and the paras that are there that can provide that relief. Even if the teacher has to go out with the individual child or the para goes out with the individual child, we have seen a lot of success. My first grade is running very well with very little hiccups with having those kids be trained between our behavior program and the paras in the classroom. We have had a lot of success in my first and second grade classrooms currently. Kindergarten, it's the training ground, and we're still training, and it just depends on the day. I spent a lot of time on the floor in the hallway today with the tennis ball. It was magic today, but you never know. And without that extra body, I'm not sure how the teachers can survive, to be honest.
Well, do you have anything to add, Mr. Larson, or any thoughts? Or
Well, so I got this proposal when we had an admin meeting, and Daryl and I were going over really funding for next year. So, you know, when we look at our units and where we'll be at, just so people have an idea, the current budget was built on 209 support units. The budget was actually done on 212, so again, we over budgeted. Based on the numbers that came out in February, we're looking at 201 units for our protected units. And the protection is, you know, you figure the ADA and multiply it by 97%. That's our protection right now. So unless that changes, that's where we should be at, is that 201 units. Well, that's a big difference. So in all reality, we're dropping from 212, which is where the budget was, down to 201 units, and that's going to be our funding. Now, there are some things in play. Debbie Critchfield's, you know, has proposed a new budget, so that there possibly are some extra funds, or might be some extra funds available for, you know, your low socioeconomic status, EL students, special education students. But really, those would become discretionary dollars, and the district would be able to allocate those where we see fit. And so, if that meant giving to the elementary schools so that they could have extra staff. So right now, you know, 212 units, we do hire about 14 and a half teachers with our special allocations. So the principals talked about the literacy funds. We have literacy, we have LEP, we have math and science money that we get from the state. And we hire about 14 and a half teachers with those dollars. But then, you know, you have the ESSER, and we're losing those staff because there's no more money there. We don't have any discretionary. I don't say we don't have any discretionary. There's very limited discretionary. The contingency, you know, from the fund balance, we've used that up, so we don't have that to fall back onto. So yeah, it could be very tight, but you know, I mean, the principals are talking, and they say, hey, we have to address the problem when it's in its infancy. Really, that's the only way we're going to be able to make a real dent, real change. So it just comes down to how we're going to prioritize the limited dollars that we do have.
Well, there's no question that the earlier we can reach these kids, I mean, the better the district will, or better the kids' chance will be later. I would think. I couldn't argue, that, and it's sounds like it's we definitely, I think I can speak for the board. We definitely understand the concern, and it's just a matter of figuring out how we can make the dollars all play out. So, well, wish there was an easy answer. And does anybody else have any other questions or comments?
I appreciate the fact that the administrator took the time to really think through the process and what it looked like and come forward with some ideas. That's huge. It's much better than just saying, hey, we need help, but to actually have something kind of laid out and to know that you guys are thinking on the backside of, we don't get all the funding, what maybe we can do. Let's just continue to, work on it and hopefully find a solution that will help us and help the kids and what we're trying to do. So,
my only question would be, and I know this is work by somebody have to do this, but is there any, because it seems like at that level there may be potential grants that would help with some sort of thing early on, as because it seems like there's a lot of grants that work for like a Head Start or something like that. Is there anything that we can look into to find some sort of additional potential funding that would help support this that anybody knows of? Has that ever been looked at?
I applied for one. It was not hardly any money. But I've really been looking. So yes, it's on my mind for sure. It is of our, I think that we would all agree the safety and really being able to teach these children is of our highest priority. But yes, I've been watching.
Definitely the thought of up to 40 kindergartners for one teacher sends shivers down my spine.
But really, that's because that's on a half day, right? So they would figure for one teacher that would be 20 in the AM and 20 in the PM.
Okay.
Do you see that's?
Well, even at
still,
that,
it's 20
I know.
Yeah, no, it's outrageous.
One kindergartner was like last year. That
One's
is a lot.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
He's fantastic.
He's not the one over.
Thanks, but I know him pretty well.
I've got a kindergarten. I got two.
Okay, well, I guess we will try our best to do what we can. I think that's all we can do at this point.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
We appreciate it.
We'll see what we can do, right? Daryl's fingers.
That's right. Our guy.
That's our guy right there.
Doesn't work out, blame Daryl. That's right, blame Daryl.
No pressure. Okay, moving on to our administrator reports. Did anybody have any questions on our reports this month?
MCA will have to present.
Yeah.
MCA.
Is she here?
I didn't have a question. I just, Mr. Larson, I've talked about this before. I've got a couple patrons who live in my area, just by West Minidoka, who we damaged their fence over a year ago. The conversations have went from, hey, when can I get some help fixing it, to they're getting a little more frustrated. And so, if we could, if we damage someone's equipment, I think we need to be very, very quick in fixing it. Because these are taxpayers that live near our facilities, and if we damage their equipment, I think we just got to get on it. And it's getting hard to have the conversations anymore when they call me. I asked them to call you, but they still call me.
Well, I've not heard from anybody.
Yeah. Well, I shared with you at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah. And to be honest, I forgot.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you're saying something now. But we'll get on that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Has anything been turned into maintenance? Have they turned anything into West Minico or maintenance or
I know
anything
I
like that?
shared pictures with you, and I think they went over to Jason. One of the people told me that they've talked with Jason a couple
I
of
can
times.
address it if you want me to.
It would be up to the
Right
board.
now, with you guys.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be calling you guys.
They do.
You just tell them that refer them to me. That's not your job, really.
It doesn't matter.
No, it's not. And I've told them that. I said, you know, get with Mr. Larson, and they were nice about it, but it is starting to. It's been over a year, and they're like, at one point,
What's happened in the last year, though? Had 3 superintendents.
Yeah.
We've been told not to spend a dime. That's not a priority. If we got an HVAC unit that's down, we're gonna work on that.
I think I've got to disagree a little bit. I think if we damage someone's equipment, I think it's got to be a priority.
It's the fence, and I know what it is.
Yeah. So
he's not being very patient with us. I told him multiple times that it would get taken care of. So he's just gonna go around me now.
So my question would be is, what?
Yeah.
When is a time
We've got
frame?
a bid on it. We have all the stuff.
We do. So that's great.
We have everything. It's just finding the money.
Okay, well, maybe this
Is it something they could turn into insurance? That's what I would say.
The deductible's too high.
I was going to say it might be if it all comes down to that deductible.
Right, I agree, but we don't know that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just whatever we can do, I think we should. So
It's a 5,000 deductible. Fence is that much.
Okay.
Okay. And anybody else have any question on the reports? Is anybody here from MCEA?
No.
No MCEA report. Okay, Mr. Larson, would you like to give us your report?
Have to?
I guess does anybody have any questions about Mr. Larson's report?
No, I mean, I already talked, about the meeting I had with the admin, and and I thought it went fairly well. The administrators understand where we're at and what funding might look like for next year. We actually had to put a halt as we got going with the funding. Then we got into staffing. Here's everyone we show on category 1, category 2, category 3. Who's paid out ESSER? Well, we did that with elementary only to find out that a lot of it was wrong. Just when we go to print things out of our system and we don't have them in the right areas, and so we've got some cleanup to do before we can get into that level. So just moving on, we haven't forgotten a couple months ago Colleen had a work session on transportation, and we are still looking into a one bus route. We talked not too long ago, and I think we're going to get the drivers out on a training day just to see if that's even feasible and what that might do. But it's still there for us. We haven't forgotten. Looking to see what we can do there. For those who don't know, I mean, if you've never testified, it was able to go to a due process hearing, and that was a lot of fun. Super fun, huh, Russ? Kind of nerve-wracking, but it was an interesting process, and just informing the board that should be playing out really here at 1st of April, and then with decision at the end of April. So hopefully get some of that wrapped up. And then also I've been given the names of those interested in administration for summer school. Again, we had some issues there. With whatever's going on, but I've been given those names. Hopefully, be setting up interviews this week. I think we had 2 for the migrant program and 2 that are interested in our regular summer school. And then we can also get our teaching positions opened up, and then once principals, admins hired, they can interview for their teaching staff.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions for him?
Not for him, but I forgot. I remember something I wanted to ask Ashley about the literacy news. this is more out of curiosity. Do we ever have data that we can compare to like other districts to see how their scores are doing? I'm just kind of curious how we compare to some of the other districts in our area.
Yeah, I can compare it to anybody. Usually when we compare, we want to compare to somebody similar to us, which the closest to us is Jerome.
Okay.
So if you want to see that, I can pull there.
I'd be curious, yeah. I mean, obviously it doesn't need to be right away, but like next time you go. The time after. I might be gone next
If
time.
you want to see compared to CASA, I can compare to CASA. They're a little different.
Okay.
Because of their different, how their schools are structured.
No, that's fine. Like, I'll trust your judgment on which ones are similar. I'm just kind of curious how we compare.
I can also put on their comparison to the district. I don't, or to the state. I don't always put that on there, but I can pull what the state. I can only pull the state and the other schools in like the more benchmark months. So I could do then to us this school year in fall on that first score is the only one I'll be able to compare them to for this year, but I could go back to last year and compare. And then in May I can compare to others.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
We're not required to give it every month in the state. We just choose to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay. Policy discussion, none this month, so that moves us into our business items. Our first item, 9A, student 3-18-2401, appeal for credits. I guess with that, would somebody be willing to make a motion to either grant or deny the appeal for credits for that student?
I'd like to make a motion to grant for student 03182401.
Okay, there was a motion by trustee Kent. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Anderson. Any comment, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain from voting because I was not here to get all the information. So abstain from my vote.
Fair. Okay, motion passes. Item 9B, student 3-18-24-02, appeal for credits. Is there a motion to either grant or deny the appeal for credits?
I'll make that motion as read.
Okay,
you have to make an actual motion for one way or the other.
I'll make a motion to approve the appeal for credits for student 03-18-24-02.
Okay, there's a motion by trustee Claridge. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by trustee Kent. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Abstain.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9C, the approval of district property for auction. Did everybody have a chance to look at that list?
Is this going out to an auction or?
Chairman, we have Mr. Van Avery here that can address this. We did have a conversation on this.
Okay.
And he'll speak about that.
Okay. Come on down.
It's pretty simple. Appreciate all you guys' work. This is something we've never done.
That's what I was going to ask. I don't think I've ever seen it before.
Well, Daryl said we could do it. Previous people didn't ever let us. Stuff just sits around. And so there's some big items on here. We got an old van that we want to sell. There is a old John Deere. It's a 11-foot wide area mower that's got tons of hours on it. That just sits around and we just don't use it because it's got a bad hydraulic pump on it. I mean, it still works, but it leaks too much for. You can go down the list and see varying things. we got a whole bunch of doors when we replace doors in different schools that, I mean, there's just stuff, we're getting too much stuff and it's hard to keep up with everything.
Sure.
And if we could do it as a department on a yearly basis, it would help clean things up, give us more room to put things in buildings. And, don't know how it will come out. They charge 15%. Is it Rogue Auctions? Just over here at the fairgrounds.
They're doing out at the fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, if an item is less than $500 in value, really, we can just get rid of it. Then I just notify the board, hey, here's how we got rid of it. As we might have some things that are over that, and there's other requirements that we have to meet. Such as public notice. We do that a couple of times. Well, the auction site will do that for us. They do it, meet the requirements, and we're good.
I gotcha.
Mr. Van Avery, one thing that I see the old DeWalt tools on there. Both DeWalt and Milwaukee will take a trade-in on any tool working or not corded or not corded, and give you value towards buying new tools. I'm not sure if you're aware of that program, but that is something that you might be able to get more value if you need to buy new tools from trading them in versus.
And we just listed those because there is a bunch that they're literally 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm no longer with Granger, but a program, and it's available to all the schools throughout the country. They will do a full trade.
So maybe we don't do those then.
Yeah, we can take those off.
But you might I can get you some information from either Milwaukee or DeWalt, whatever you prefer.
So we were.
Ask them.
Well, I appreciate that. So we were actually on some of these. We didn't list amounts, like how many, because we didn't have an inventory. Is that okay if do I need to report any like numbers, or because like the doors, there's probably honestly. I bet there's 100 doors. They're all old wood doors. Similar to maybe what you got on this door here going in. But we'd replace the high school ones at the English building in different varying places.
I think this is great.
Yeah. And it's just, I guess it's, we only have so many people working for us, and if a vehicle's sitting and you don't use it a certain amount of time, it's got a battery, you're going to have to replace the battery and the upkeep. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of one of the vans to kind of see where our inventory is for what people use this summer when we do it. So I appreciate your support on that. Any questions otherwise?
No, I think if things aren't able to be utilized anymore, then that makes sense to part with it.
But just to go back, if that individual calls you, he can call me. I've talked to him 3 or 4 times, and a lot of the times it was right in the middle. Last spring, last summer, all that stuff going down, and you're just kind of in limbo where you should be.
He's not upset. He's just like, I just like to know. So if you've got bits, I think if you even knew that, I think that would help him out.
Yeah, and I understand his concern, but I'm not going to leave him high and dry. We're just going to try to tie it. Like we just barely got an estimate for doing that whole back fence, which is for the safety grant too. And it's like $70,000. So if we
go that whole back there by the farm.
So we just basically I could probably just tell the guy that's doing it fix that piece because he's the one that gave us the estimate on the other anyway. But I usually do not leave people high and dry if there's a reason, not an excuse. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on items going to auction?
That's a good idea.
Okay. Well, with that, I would accept a motion for the approval of district property for auction.
Go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Trustee Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Perez. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9D, the approval to go out for bus bids. So what kind of buses are you looking for now? How are the gas buses working out?
We lost an emergency brake on one of them, but you lose that on a diesel. It's not like it's going to be one or the other. I think they get up. They don't get up and go like a diesel. I'll be honest with you, they don't have the torque. But money-wise, working with the gas is a lot better than working with that diesel.
Good.
Because the new DEF stuff is coming out, and I visited with Mr. Larson about it. you're gonna have 4 filters on that new bus
For a diesel.
for diesel.
And how much for the filters?
$4,000.
That's
Because of the diesel the things. So I'm proposing to go back to gas. I would propose to get a big bus, and I was going to make it 78 passenger. I'll put a short seat in the front on this side, a short seat in the back on the other side, with 5 cameras on the inside of the bus, with 1 camera on the outside. We're also thinking about going black goods because it makes the reflection of the bus not so bright on us. So black hood, black front of them, so they'll look party snazzy. I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's a
It's a safety. It's a safety issue,
It's
right?
a safety
You're not
issue.
getting that glare. That
And we get 85% reimbursement back on that. With the new funding that we're getting back from the state, I have visited with Daryl. Daryl's, naturally the man. And so I have visited with him. He told me I could probably get right now 1 big bus and 1 handicap bus with what we've got. So right now.
And how many older buses can we get rid of? Or are we getting rid of any?
We need to probably get rid of some. I've got a bus right now, the heater, I've done everything. We've done a new thermostat, we've done everything. And we cannot get that bus to warm up. It's a great bus for summer, but in the wintertime, it does not work. So, but that's where we're at with that.
Somebody will
Well,
want
I'm
to buy
talking.
it
Well, I
and
was
turn it
curious to
into a house.
see how the gas ones were working out for you. So.
Yeah.
So do we need to make a motion for
Yeah,
that?
anybody else have any questions? Okay, with that, I would accept a motion for the approval to go out for bus bids.
I would make a motion for 90 approval to go out for bus bids.
Okay, there's a motion by Trustee Perez. Is there a second? Second. Second by Trustee Claridge. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9E, the approval of the revised organizational chart. Did you have any comments on that, Mr. Larson?
No, just as changes, being made. I think staff needs to know that there's still somebody in charge back there, and so they know who to go to.
It's the second page.
Oh, there it is. There, I just
Yeah,
accept it.
yeah, there's, oh,
Okay.
okay. Everybody's under the business.
Okay, did anybody have any questions for Mr. Larson or comments?
This is what it is now. When things change, it would change again.
We could, yes. Some of it you don't know, what kind of staff you're going to hire, but yes.
But you'll probably.
This is kind of a tentative.
Temporary
Yes.
type.
Okay, with that, I would accept a motion for the approval of the revised organizational chart.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Trustee Anderson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Kent. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9F, the Minidoka weight room fundraiser. Probably had a chance to look at the.
Mr. Tringle, anything we need to know about this? Are you aware of it?
Yeah, I had a discussion with Mr. Leddington about it. I think, in the financial stratum, it's not an athletic team right now. It's basically the physical education department and as many students as they have in there. And, it's been 4 years since we've added anything in that weight room, and updates need to happen. There's things breaking. We're doing a good job taking care of it, but there's a lot of kids. I would say, Jesse, how many on a daily basis we got using that between 7 a.m. to 5 o'clock at night? And all honesty.
We were just talking about that, trying to do our math here.
I just know the lights are always on.
I'd say you're looking at well over 200 kids.
Yeah.
12 classes each day.
Well, that's a good thing.
And that's just.
I would say that's at the least.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad to see.
And we're talking, then after school with
There's
everything.
classes in there first through seventh hour, and then there's athletes that use it early in the morning and into the evening.
And we have faculty that uses it too on their own time. Yeah. But
And there's always somebody in there with them.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
My question is, have you worked with this particular fundraising, this online event before?
I have not. I know they
So
discussed it.
I know Coach Blazer's not here, but he's worked with certain ones before, and we looked at and we talked to some of these companies about how we can do this. We got, I don't want to say bids, but they kind of talked about how they would help us, and we looked at the idea of what is best of how much money do we get back compared to there were some that we'd have to pay more out. So it really wasn't going to help us too much. So these guys worked with us. We thought it was the best option out there. We looked at three different ones. And I know Coach Blaser talked
just
to
to help them out on this. I think Coach did that at CUNA.
Yeah.
Wood River Tennis did let me know they used something very similar to this, and just their tennis program made over $10,000 to benefit their program just through this very similar thing. So, and that's roughly 50 kids. So you take however many kids. I mean, you both got 200 different ones, and it could definitely be something used. No, because none of us in the athletics we do this. We try to get our kids out there. Right. We want them helping the community. There's a lot of kids that do not play sports or anything. They're just in there for physical fitness.
Yeah.
And they want to consistently use this. And honestly, we've got a lot of young freshmen that they've got really excited about the weights, and you see a big difference. And now they're trying to up it a little bit, keep up with times. We do have one of the best weight rooms in all the high schools in the state. That's very evident that our teachers are trying to continue to make better. So it's not even about the coaches really using it. It's the teachers that this has become extremely important for. So, I mean, it's a classroom over anything else is how we view it.
Yeah. We have 200 plus kids going through it on a daily basis. It's pretty awesome.
And one of the things that we want you to know is this is based off of what we see for safety for these kids. This isn't us just being, update. We have bands breaking that we are using daily. We have a dumbbell that you can turn. We've removed it, but it's falling apart. The kid does something the wrong way, it falls on them. I mean, this is just one of those, it's just normal wear and tear over time. And to us, it's more about this is a safety issue, so we can update it, so we can do the best for these kids, but also at the same time, keep them safe, which is always our number one goal when we do these classes.
I'd like to know more about like how this vertical, because the way you read it is that the students are going out and getting sponsors. So what does the vertical raise do for 20%? Because it seems high to me, but.
So their platform, they're going to give us a link, and that link can be sent anywhere worldwide. Like you can have a grandparent in New York that says, "Hey, I'm going to donate." So what happens is they get all of those donations beforehand. We do our lift, and then Vertical Raise will collect that money and then write us a check. So we're not creating a link or anything. They're doing that for us.
Okay, my question is, have you talked to Daryl about this situation?
No, but honestly, workload that's currently in our spot, I'm all for.
I mean, I just don't want something to backfire and.
You got elementary that do the same type of thing with readathons. It's just who's going to manage it? Do you have a PTO that wants to put in that much
right.
effort? Do you have a staff member that, honestly, as many kids as they deal with and everything, I'd be asking for them to do stuff outside of hours, and you're just asking for someone to donate more than they already are.
I just can't believe it's been 4 years already since we.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hey, and I will tell you, just to give you a heads up on the weight room, I got a phone call last October, and it was Kimberly's athletic director brought over his football staff, and they all wanted to get in the weight room, and they were taking pictures of it. and he sent me pictures a few weeks ago of their new weight room. It literally looks like Minidoka's. And they went all the same weights. They called the same guy. They told him we want exactly what Minico got. So that just tells you we kind of set a staple. So now it's good to see our teachers wanting to build on, you know, how the process started.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's awesome that, I mean, the program's getting utilized, and that's really awesome.
That's good.
So, okay. Anybody else have any questions for him? Comments? Anything? Okay. With that, is anybody willing to make a motion to approve the Minico weight room fundraiser?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Perez. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9G, the approval of the state special education manual and the state transportation manual. I guess it's something we'll do every year. It's pretty light reading.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to know, Mrs.
No,
Wheeler?
it's just important to do that each year. So that's what we're required to do.
Okay, Colleen, anything from you that we need to know? Okay. All right. With that, is somebody willing to make a motion to approve the state special education manual and the state transportation manual?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the state special education manual and state transportation manual.
Okay, motion by Trustee Perez. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Trustee Kent. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, item 9H, our policies. It looks like we're probably ready. Did anybody have any comments or questions on the policies that we were looking at?
No.
It looked like we could pass policy 480 and 480P and 530, and maybe hold
Hold
the others.
Yeah.
542 and 544.
Bereavement leave is in the NCA agreement. So we're gonna have to
Okay.
wait for that one, even though it's changing the number of days in class category 1 from 3 to 1, but it's still in their agreement.
Okay.
So we'll have to hold off on it.
Okay, so with that, I would accept a motion to approve policy 480.00 and 480.00P, use of school facilities and procedure, and policy 530.00, electronic services for employees.
I'll make that motion as read.
Motion by Trustee Anderson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Kent. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, with that, we're on to 9I. So with that, I would accept a motion, or student discipline, motion to expel student 03-18-24-5 till the end of the school year and revisit at the scheduled July regular board meeting.
And revisit, what did you say?
Revisit at the scheduled the regular July board meeting. If anyone's willing to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Trustee Claridge. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Trustee Perez. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, and with that, I would accept a motion for adjournment.
I'm making a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, motion by Trustee Perez. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
I need to spend some